All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders who want to build industry leading brands. Today, I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I have with me the man himself, Mr. Bobby Jackson. What's up, Bobby? How you doing?
Doing phenomenally, Junior. Phenomenally this morning. How about yourself?
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely phenomenal. I can't complain. Listen, Bobby, today is a very, very special day. Can anybody guess what day is today? Okay, I think all right. So Loana, don't say anything. So Loana, she's putting it out there already. I see it. But guys, okay, so let's get to the chase. Today is actually the International Women's Day. Okay? So what I want you to do is let's recognize all of our phenomenal women inside the leadership leverage. We have so many phenomenal women. We have I'm not gonna mention any names, but there are so many of them. Loana is one example, right? Of course, we have the phenomenal Tia, we have Dr. Michelle, who I'm sure will be tuning in. But one thing we want to do definitely is we want to recognize women for all of the amazing contributions that they've made, honestly, to the entire planet. Like literally, not just the home, not just the workplace, not just business, but literally every single thing you can possibly think of. Women have made valuable and amazing contributions to it. So at this point, I do want to recognize all of the phenomenal women and just say happy Women's Day. If you're viewing this live, help us to celebrate these amazing women by putting some flames in the comments. So let's get some flames and let's clap for them. Let's get some flames going, man. Listen, we would be literally nowhere without women. We literally come from women. Need I say more? We refer to the earth as Mother Earth. We refer to the earth as Mother Earth, which supplies and gives us everything that we have. So let's celebrate these amazing women. If you're a woman and you're in business, kudos to you. If you're a woman and you're not in business, kudos to you. So just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you've done. How about yourself, Bobby? Is there anything that you'd like to say to all of our phenomenal women watching?
Man, there's so much to say to the phenomenal women watching, but if I had to say it in one word, I'd probably say, man, unyielding is what comes to my mind. Like women go through so much from childbirth to dealing with us men. And it's like they're just phenomenal. They're unyielding. They don't let anything stop them. They don't let anything slow them down. They're phenomenal in business. They're phenomenal in the family. They're phenomenal in the education system. It shows like they're much smarter than us in many instances. It's just like
Yeah.
it's an incredible it's an incredible day to acknowledge something that's not as acknowledged. So for me, I think in one word, not a very common word, but unyielding. I've seen my mother overcome phenomenal things, my grandmother phenomenal things, and I wouldn't be here without either one of those women. So thank you, ladies, for all that you all do and for being absolutely relentless, always finding the
Yeah.
next level, the next gear, and getting it done when us men oftentimes may tap out.
That's so true, Bobby. And I can personally attest to that. Having worked with hundreds of women at this point, like just with marketing, branding, coaching, sales, you name it. Like the women, really push, man. They really try, they really push. And man, they're amazing. They really are. In fact, I can remember growing up. When growing up, I was actually raised like for the first part of my life by my grandmother. How many of you could relate? Like without my grandmother, I probably wouldn't be here. When we really think of it, like as kids, we don't think about this kind of things. But then when we grow up and we become adults, and then we have our own kids, I'm looking at my son. I'm looking at all of the danger that he's putting himself through on a daily basis, and I'm saying to myself, man, without his grandmother, without his mom, and all that, like I'm thinking of myself, man. I probably wouldn't be here. We don't think about these things, but it's true. Women, they do everything for us, everything. So we want to say happy International Women's Day. You ladies are absolutely amazing, and let's keep pushing. So shout out to every single woman looking. We wanted to take, the first segment of this show just to recognize women because it is International Women's Day, and every single woman, doesn't matter your situation, doesn't matter your status. wherever you are, whatever you're doing, as long as you're trying and every single day you're pushing to be a better woman, for yourself, number one, for your family, number two, for society, for the world at large, then you are absolutely amazing. And then we want to recognize you. So thank you so much. Now, guys, that being said, we are going to go to the first break. Okay. But when we come back, we do have a phenomenal guest. Okay. The guest is no stranger to the show. Um, it is a he, okay? It is a he, and we're working on getting more she's on the show. We'll tell you about that a little bit later. But the guest is an absolutely and I'll tell you something, Bobby. We've had many guests, but I find this gentleman particularly interesting. And every time we talk, I always have like a bunch of questions. Because let me tell you something, when you get somebody like the person I'm about to bring on, after the break, and you have the opportunity to speak with them, and just ask them any question you can or you like to, you don't waste that opportunity. Like that is just pure wisdom. That is a golden opportunity. And listen, this is not something that anybody should take for granted. Okay, the person we're about to bring on after the break is an absolute legend. Um, he is part of the leadership leverage, but I'll tell you something. When I'm in his presence, I I am very coachable. Yeah, I'm very very coachable. I ask questions and I empty my cup. I empty my cup completely and I just listen. And I recommend that every single person do the same. So we'll be right back after this break. Stay tuned. And also, number two, share this out to all of your amazing people on all social media platforms. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
From Harriet Tubman to Sojourner Truth to Rosa Parks, we have always been on a freedom run. Your LLC, your S Corp, C Corp, your business entity is what's going to give you the ability to go from your job, your industry wages, your 9 to 5 to the life of your dreams and the dream of your life. This is about you attaining all of the things that you could only possibly imagine and that our ancestors saw as not even being possible. Your freedom run? This is your freedom run. This is your moment. We're going to show you how to establish yourself as a business entity so you can go and come as you choose. There was a time when we needed permission slips to go from plantation to plantation. When you get a little bit older, you need permission slips to go from class to class. And when you get a little bit older, you get a vacation for 2 weeks and then you have to come back after 2 weeks to your job, right? That's what they call it now, the 9 to 5, the gig. You might you work for 50 weeks and you get 2 off. The freedom run is when you establish your LLC and you're free for the rest of your life. When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, you're going to add a 0 to the world, but you'll also add a 0 to your revenue. Let's grow.
All right, guys. So we are back. Of course, this is Breakfast with the Brand. And we have with us the living legend himself, Mr. Joel D. Smith. Joel, what's up? What's up? What's up?
Hey,
Phenomenal morning.
it's a fabulous Friday morning. It's definitely phenomenal. I woke up. I've got air in my lungs. My blood is flowing warmly and freely through my body, and it is International Women's Day.
Yes, it is.
If you don't mind too much, I'd like to honor a few women that
Of
have
course.
come to mind as well. You know, without these women, I just don't know that we would be where we are today. Uh, Being a former veteran, the first one I'm going to acknowledge is she was the first in her field and the first Surgeon General of the Army. That was retired Lieutenant General Nadia West, also a West Pointer, but she set the stage when she became the Surgeon General of the Army. That was number one. The second one, I have known her. She is now a 4-star general and is in charge of one of our major commands, one of the first to have a major command behind General Ann Dunwoody, and that is Laura Richardson. I've known her since she was a first lieutenant when we were stationed in the Republic of Korea up in a little small place called Chungcheong. It's Camp Page, Korea. She is now a 4-star general. And I acknowledge her not only because of her accomplishments, but she also shares the birthday with one of the most phenomenal women that I know, and that's my mother, Roberta Smith. Hard young lady, and put a lot on me. But there's two things that my mother left with me that drive me to this day. Number one, never, never, never give up.
Mm.
Number two, be better than you were yesterday. And the last woman that I have to acknowledge is my bride, Dr. Katrina Hall. She gets to put up with me. She gets to see me when I'm deep in thought, and she can tell when the mood swings and I'm feeling down on myself or I'm hard on myself. And she constantly reminds me, you are more than what you think you are. Keep going. Thank you, ladies.
Yes. Thank you again, ladies. Thank you again. Thank you again. That's amazing, Joel. It's amazing. We could talk forever about the contributions of phenomenal women. And shout out to Dr. Katrina Hall Smith. I see her comment right there. That's right. That's right. Okay. That's amazing. Bobby, I'll let you kick us off. Did you have anything? I have a couple questions for Joel. And let me tell you something, guys. I like this morning I got up, I trained as usual. I sat down and after I train, I normally have my drink, which is a CMOS drink. So for those of you who don't know, I think it said that the average human needs like 104 nutrients, and CMOS has like 96. It has 96 of those 104 nutrients. So I drink it every morning, and I said, "What will I ask Joel today?" And I wrote down a couple questions here, but I'll let Bobby kick us off. I'll let Bobby
Yeah.
kick us off.
So my first question for you this morning, Joel, has to do with strategic leadership and the adaptability aspect of it. So we left off last week talking about business readiness. And as we talk about different leaders and different things that they can do to stay in a state of readiness, how do you recommend leaders think about adaptability so that they're never behind the curve when they need to be
Mm.
ahead of the game?
When you start dealing with adaptability, first off, you must understand as a leader and a strategic leader, making the decision is a challenging task.
Mm.
It's challenging for individuals. It's challenging for businesses alike. It's natural to want to make the best decision possible. But the truth is, we don't always have complete information or clear understanding of the future or the environment that we find ourselves engaged in. Last week, we mentioned when is it good enough? Not being able to understand the complexities and the optimization. You will never have an exhaustive awareness of all options that are available to you. If you were to try to find all the options that are available to you, eventually you're going to get behind the competition and you're going to become obsolete. So you have to get to a point of understanding good enough is good enough and moving forward with clear and decisive guidance. Okay, we're going to move. So being adaptable to that situation and understanding that it is complex and that you never will have a perfect solution, that is key, because making a decision is a challenging task. Everybody wants to make it perfect. There is no such thing as a perfect solution.
Right. Yeah. You know, Joel, what this makes me think about as I pass it to Junior here is those that are watching this right now, one of the things that we see a lot of times that hold people up are the inability to trust themselves. And I think what Joel is saying is, at least for me, how I'm resonating with it is adaptability has a degree to do with self-reliance and trust in one's own abilities to adapt. So when we talk about being ready and when we talk about making decisions in complex environments with uncertain terrain, there's a level of self-trust and self-belief that is necessary to execute at this level. So I just want all of you all to think about why you haven't pulled the trigger on something. And you might be able to tie that back to a competency that's missing, because that means there may be confidence gaps there. And that's in anyone. Like, decisions, again, are complex things, especially in high uncertainty. And I myself has found myself hesitant to pull a trigger and then tying it back when I do the research and I unfold it to a competency that is not completely developed. And when you can do that objectively and not get down on yourself, then you become a lot more adaptable, because you go and get the competency that you need. You pull the trigger in an uncertain situation and you can trust yourself to adapt because you have the confidence to do so due to your development of the competence. So thank you, Joel, for that breakdown.
Yes, sir.
Bobby, you actually took one of my questions, man. Bobby
Nice.
took Bobby took my second question.
Good.
But no, that's amazing. It shows that we're in alignment here and we're moving in the same direction. I was gonna ask Joel, I know that many leaders, especially in business, they have different frameworks that they use for decision making. So I'll use the example of somebody like Ray Dalio, for example. He uses the idea of, I think he calls it a certain kind of meritocracy, where he says that everybody has a say at the table. So whether you're the CEO or the janitor, you want to know what's going on. And then he doesn't care who makes the right decision. He just wants the right decision made. Whether it comes from this guy or it comes from this woman, he doesn't really care. The decision doesn't necessarily have to come from him. I've also heard, people like the late Charlie Munger say that, or use the framework of what you call opposite thinking. So, for example, it's called idea meritocracy. So Charlie Munger has this framework of like opposite thinking. So in other words, if I could guarantee that I am not successful, what would I absolutely have to do? So let's give you an example. Let's say I wanted to build a strong body, right? Charlie Munger would say, okay, if I absolutely did not want to build a strong body, where's what I would do? Well, I would not wake up early. I would not eat right. I would eat only fast food. I would not train. And then what he would do is he would do the opposite of everything that he shouldn't do. And then he arrives at the answer. So my question to you, Joel, is like, because I'm imagining you like suited and booted and moving into the boardroom, and there's a big decision that you have to make, right? And I'm wondering, like, with so many decisions to make, you being a strategic leader, is there some kind of framework or some kind of model, mental model or framework that you use when you make decisions? And I'm wondering if it's something that we could take and apply as business owners. Do you have anything like that?
I do. And I will tell you, as a strategic leader, it is important to recognize that developing the skills and the capabilities of those I'm charged with, those senior leaders that I trust in, that I delegate to, that I give tasking to, it is critical that I develop them and recognize their skills and capabilities in achieving the vision.
Yeah.
Why? Because senior leaders set the tone for your entire organization. their actions and behaviors closely watched and are emulated by your other team members. So I have to foster a culture of servant leadership within my organization, which is essential to developing my senior leaders. And the areas that I typically look for, and this is something that you have discussions with, you have a mindset meetings, or you have retreats that you go off and you speak with your folks. Emotional intelligence. What am I meaning? The ability to identify, understand, and manage one's own emotions, as well as the emotions of others. Critical component in effective leadership. Strategic thinking, thinking outside the box, being able to analyze complex information, identify trends, identify patterns, develop long-term strategic vision. As we spoke, strategic thinking and strategic leadership is about not looking at the right now. It's future forecasting. It's looking forward. It's looking 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years down the line. Coaching and developing. Must be skilled in coaching and developing as a strategic leader and a senior leader. So those folks that you put in charge and managing your different operations or taking care, you and for instance, marketing, Bobby, financing, branding, they have to have the ability to coach and develop others.
Mm-hmm.
You've heard me say it before. I don't necessarily want to be the smartest person in the room. If I'm the smartest person in the room and I can do everything, what do I need you for? I need to be able to identify those things that you bring to the table and nurture them and help you to grow them. To develop these skills in a senior leader is essential to provide them with thought-provoking education and resources. Branded you, for instance. We're giving you information. We're giving you courses. We're giving you things that's going to challenge you to think, challenge you to grow. So I hope that kind of got at your question. I don't have a specific system, but I use a combination of things to identify within my leaders what needs to be enhanced so we can go forward.
Yes, sir. That definitely does answer my question. And I think you did answer it a little bit as well when you spoke with Bobby a while ago, and you used the phrase like, when is good good enough? Believe it or not, like that little mindset, like when is good good enough? Because I've seen so many entrepreneurs struggle, particularly when it comes to systems. So people often tell me, well, I need a system for my business, but then they want to have the system built all the way out before they execute. So I really love like combining those competencies, and also, just the little phrase like, when is good good enough? Because that's so true. I'm a very systematic person, and it's easy, like when you're a systematic person, you could get stuck in, I think they call it paralysis by analysis, where you're stuck, you're always analyzing stuff in like a loop, and you're never moving forward. So yes, that does answer my question. Thank you so much.
One of the hardest things for us to do, and I find myself in it as well, I have to challenge myself and rethink things. Accepting that we cannot get everything right all the time is the key to making good decisions. I'm going to say that one more time. Accepting that we can't get everything right all the time is the key to making good decisions. By focusing on finding a solution that is good enough to meet our needs, we can more effectively address our decision making.
Yeah. I love this because, guys, as y'all are watching this, I need y'all to know that we are talking about branding right now. So I'm going to make some connections for you, just for those that are like, where's this going? This is a little deep for us this morning. So I want you to think about what a brand really is. So Shaan taught it to me this way. He says a brand is what people say about you when you enter a room and when you leave a room. Now, when we're talking about leadership, and we're talking about, because my next question for Joel is more of a story. I'm going to ask him to tell a particular story that I know he has. But the brand, Maya Angelou put it this way. She said, people may not remember everything you do, but they'll never forget how you make them feel. So what we're talking about when it comes to strategic leadership, and when it comes to adaptability and decision making, when you are a leader, an entrepreneur, a business owner, you're always making people feel something. And check this out. People feel things most intensely in moments of extreme uncertainty. Okay? And entrepreneurship is extreme uncertainty. Your spouse, how are we going to pay this? How are we going to pay that? Your leadership, your adaptability, your strategic leadership, your brand, because you brand you, not what you do, your brand is going to have a direct impact on how she feels or how he feels. And the same is true of your staff, and the same is true of the client you're trying to close. So when we talk about branding and we talk about strategic leadership, when you're on the other side of that closing call and you're having a conversation and they hit you with the objection, your adaptability, your strategic leadership, your ability to make a decision on the fly that satisfies the objection, and you can do it with confidence, that's strategic leadership. That's adaptability. That's on the fly execution with trust and faith in your own abilities. This is your brand. When we cut this off today, you guys are going to say Joel is a master of execution, strategic leadership, strategic thinking, and leadership development. Why? Because he is making you feel that in the eloquence and depth of each of these questions being answered. So my thing for you, Joel, as we go a little bit deeper, could you share a story where your leadership gravitas, like the leadership that you just developed over time, has minimized casualties and friction? But before you answer, I just want to put this out. Like when you build a brand and you build that brand around strategic leadership, your gravitas, your leadership, how people perceive you, minimizes casualty and it minimizes friction because people trust you. People know that you're going to deliver. People can depend on you. So Joel, has there ever been a time in your career or in your life where your strategic thinking, strategic leadership showed up in such a way that you were able to avoid casualties and minimize friction just because of who you are and the way you lead?
Yeah, there's been several. I'm trying to figure out which one will best capture the entirety of the question. As an instructor pilot, as a standardization instructor pilot in the United States Army, in a few of our units, one of the many taskings that I had to do was ensure that everyone was trained to a standard. As you've heard me say before, for me, though, my standard was always more stringent and much higher than the standard that was put in the book. Why did I do that? Why did I push myself so hard in those instances? Because I knew that lives were on the line in all that I did. That was whether we were actively engaged in combat, because contrary, the military is a dangerous profession. And it's not just dangerous when bullets are flying both directions. It's dangerous in training. It's dangerous when just simply moving through the field, going on training operations where you're moving in the dark and you're using night vision goggles, which is not a natural state for the human body. You're seeing shades of gray, as we call it. It's green, but shades of gray is what they call it. So when you're out there training, you're training within the scope of what the commander's vision is. So I had to tailor the training to make sure that the guys were meeting the standard according to the book, but they were also meeting the end state of what the commander wanted us to be able to do and accomplish. So having said all that, an instance that impacted me even to this day, probably the only time that I was scared in my military career. Been shot at, my aircraft has been hit. I've had rounds come up through the bottom of the aircraft, go right between my legs and right out the center. Didn't faze me at all. One time it scared me. I was on a what we call a deep attack mission training out at the National Training Center in California, Fort Irwin. And I was training an individual. He was in the front seat and I was in the back. We're blacked out. It's at night. We're about 5 feet off the ground, doing about 130. One eye in the dark. Because of the old system, the old Apache at the time, there were some things going on. I had to change radios. The radio, unfortunately, was with me in the back seat as I was flying. So to change the radio, I had to look down into my right rear instead of looking where the aircraft was going. So what do? You transfer the controls. I need you to fly so I can do this. Had on equipment. I started hearing aircraft is taking a small hit. Aircraft is taking a small hit. I look up. We're climbing up. We're getting away from the ground. So now the enemy can see us. I take the aircraft. I dive back down. Okay, we're going. Have to change radios again. I'm down. I would fix my reticle forward so I could see in my right eye while using my left eye to change the frequency. This individual starts screaming, "Joe, you have the controls, you have the controls." I look up, there's no sky. All I see is rock. We were in a dive, accelerating through 150, and I didn't have time to scream. I didn't have time to say I have the controls. I took the controls in instinct, having known what the route was and where we were going all above, told me to pull aft, bank to the right, and pull as much power as I possibly could. We missed the mountain by 3 feet on our radar altimeter as we were decelerating through 120. Had I hit that mountain, we would have disintegrated on the spot. The only thing you would have found would have been teeth, possibly.
Wow.
I should have stopped, but the mission dictated that we continue on. Bobby Jr., I was shook up. I broke up in a cold sweat in the back of the aircraft. I'm like, I'm ready to call this, but I keep hearing, never, never, never give up. You don't quit. You keep going. You get into the fight. I spent the next 3 hours in a notional battle. And when I got to the ground, I landed, and not to belabor the story, I landed, I'm sitting there, and a couple of my senior instructors come up on me. So I'm sitting in the back seat, just, and come up, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "Man, I just had the life scared out of me." And one of my favorite guys, Steve Gilbreth, one of my mentors, looked at me. He said, "Joel, is this the first time you've been scared before?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, if I'd have known that, I'd have took you out and scared you to death a long time ago. Get out the aircraft. Let's go in here and get something to eat." But that's the way you thought. So when you look at it from the training aspect to getting to what the leader wanted, I had a mission to accomplish that I was tasked to do, which came from command. At the same time, I had a training opportunity that was going through. Fortunately, the young guy in the front seat didn't know until we got back on the ground how close we came to dying. When we actually went in and looked at the film. What happened is we had a problem with the aircraft. His system went black on him and he lost vision. And the only thing in my mind is, okay, well, what's the first thing you do when you lose vision? You don't dive, you get away from the ground. You declare an emergency, you climb up. Well, in combat, we would have gotten shot and down. So the fact that he announced it soon enough gave me the opportunity, the only opportunity to react. But had I reacted the wrong way and not learned the route and understanding what the mission was, it could have ended catastrophically.
You know,
only time in my life I've been scared, and I've been flying 40 plus years. Only time.
I love this. And I'm a Marine, so I'm feeling it. Like, I've been in multiple situations where it's been like, it's been like that. But when I think about business, You would be my Sean in this case, and I would be the student pilot, so to speak. And guys, I don't think you all understand how serious sometimes it is. And I know you understand, but like when you really have hundreds of thousands of dollars like invested, millions of dollars invested, and you're going at full speed, meaning one false move means bankruptcy. One false move means they take the house. One false
Mhm.
move means everything that you've invested in becomes a sunk cost, and you don't have time to think. You might only have enough time to say, I don't know what to do. And if no one's there to bank, pull, accelerate, it's over. And
Mhm.
when we're talking about strategic leadership, and we're talking like, I am very confident that the individual that saw you do that might have not been able to appreciate everything that they were experiencing at the time, but they never forgot that experience. They never forgot blacking out. They never forgot losing controls. They never forgot boom, boom, boom. And that is in them. And I think what's so important about this experience is that when you're in business, guys, and you are in a community, or you have the executive coach, or you have the strategic leader that is helping you develop, there is going to be a mountain. I have had many in my 400% revenue growth for 3 consecutive years. Like, you don't grow that fast without investing every dollar that you have, because it takes all of that pressure and all of that instinct to be kicking in. Like, pressure is a privilege when you get to that level. So as I turn it back over to Junior, like, I just need you all to understand that this strategic leadership conversation that we're having has so much to do with business success that it's not even funny, because you're probably heading right now 150 miles into a mountain. And if you are not in the right position to full bank accelerate, it could be, the end. So, Junior, could you go ahead and hit the banner real quick? Because some people might just need to have that one, two, three.
Let me tell you something. Number one, thank you so much for sharing that story. Like, listen, I was seeing everything while Joe was speaking. I was seeing everything. I had to go back while he was talking. I went back. I googled the Apache, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing Joe in that thing. And let me tell you something, Bobby. You're so right. And this goes back to what I said, I think 2 Saturdays ago, when I said that when your back's against the wall, you fall to your lowest level of skill. So that shows Joel's competency as a pilot. Because trust me, like his back was against the wall right there. Like his back was against like four walls, right, Joel? So that shows that shows his competency. So he said it was instinct, because it's you've trained so much, right? You've trained so much that you just knew what to do. So I'm thinking of, how does this relate to business, right? Guys, listen, what is your level of skill? So, what is your level of skill when it comes to branding? What is your level of skill when it comes to coaching, when it comes to sales, when it comes to speaking, etc., etc.? What is your level of skill? And that's why we always advise, like, train every single day. I train every day. I trained before we came to this call, and I don't mean physical training, I mean sales training, I mean branding, I mean coaching. I train every day, twice a day, every single day. Monday through Sunday, I'm training. When you're sleeping, I'm training. When you're eating, I'm training. I train because, let me tell you something. You never know when you're gonna need. It's almost like, remember back in school, like if you did like a chemistry class, we used to ask ourselves, where are we gonna use this stuff? We're not gonna use anything in physics and chemistry. I've been in situations where if I didn't pay attention in physics, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. You never know when you need that little millimeter of skill. So this is so, so important. But thank you so much for sharing that, Joel. And I also wrote down one more thing before we go to the break, which is reframe. What I love about the end of the story is reframe. So what I love about the end of the story is, when your senior told you, Joe, is that like he made it like, is that it? Like, come on, man, let's go. And I've spoken to, it's so funny because I've spoken to people inside the leverage, and when they were having like, certain scenarios where they were freaking out. I'm like, is that it? Like, just do this, that, and that, and let's move on. When you have that kind of leadership and you have somebody that's a coach and they can guide you, they can steer you in the right direction, and they've been down that road before, it makes it very easy and very simple and very, very concise to be able to reframe like that. And that's what I took away from that. I took away instinct, training, and being able to reframe situations to have a different outlook and a different outcome. So, guys, we're going to go to a quick break. And when we come back, more with Joel D. Smith. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. We will be getting to your questions. Let's grow.
So when you're young, mommy tells you to play nice. Play nice, Timmy. Let all of the other kids play too. But in business, it's not about playing nice. In business, it's about winning. It's about adding multiple zeros to your revenue. Now, of course, your staff wins. And when you win, other people win. However, when it comes to competition, you absolutely must dominate. You can't play for participation, and you can't play just to get along or just to get by, because business is serious. Business will help you to change the world, or the world will change you. Your people will either win or your people will lose based on your level of leadership, what you're willing to do, what you're willing to sacrifice, and how much you know about dominating. Confidence is key. Most of the people I work with, they have the education, the experience, and the expertise. We call those the 3 E's. But they're looking for the 3 I's, the income, the impact, and the independence. And I always tell them that the bridge between the 3 E's and the 3 I's is marrying your confidence to your competence. Most of the people I work with, again, have all of the competence in the world. What I help them do is get the confidence.
All right, guys, so we are back from the break. Now, before we continue, I do want to plug the link at the bottom. So, ultimatebrandchallenge.com. In a couple of days, less than 2 weeks, actually, March 18th, we're going to be going live for 5 days to bring you, timeless information about building an industry-leading brand. Like, listen, if you love Breakfast with a Brand, if you love Shaan Rais, if you love Junior Frederick, Joel Lee Smith, Bobby Stealth over there, you want to come to the brand challenge. If you're looking to build a brand, any kind of brand, any industry, any field, any skill, come to the brand challenge. It's 100% free to participate. And yes, there are VIP options, but just go to that link below. You could actually type in www. You don't have to use the bit.ly. You could just type in www.ultimatebrandchallenge.com. It's free to register. Also, bring your family, bring your friends, bring your acquaintances, bring everybody you know. The only cost of investment is your time and your attention. All right, let's go. So, Bobby, we've had a phenomenal show so far. Phenomenal show. I wanna ask Joel a different kind of question. Okay, a different kind of question now. So, Joel, my question to you is this, and it's about having conversations. I mean, conversations and leadership go hand in hand, right? It's not possible to have any type of leadership without communication. And sometimes that requires you having a tough conversation. So my question to you is, how do you approach a tough conversation? So if you have to have a tough conversation with somebody from your organization, what is your approach to these kinds of conversations?
Depends on the individual. Learning your personnel, learning your people, understanding what makes them tick, understanding what motivates them, what demotivates them, will always be essential in your ability to address tough subjects with them. Understanding that tough subjects take place, and I heard this from another phenomenal young lady when they was asking about their assistants and all the above. Venus Williams said this: no slow deaths. No slow deaths. We got to have this conversation. If I need to let you go, then that's exactly what needs to take place. It is not something that you just yield or weld willy-nilly, as it were. When I say no slow deaths, Opportunity has been made to conduct some corrective actions, conduct some corrective training. Um, Goals and standards were not met. Okay, it is now time to move on. We're taking the personal out of the professional. It's
Mhm.
not personal, it's business. You know, that's why folks are always leery sometimes about doing business with friends or doing business with family. Because
Mhm.
if you're not living up to expectations, you're not holding up your end of the deal and all the above, change is inevitable and it needs to take place. So I like to have the conversations, try to feel folks out, try to learn all those around, and then we try to find a way to address any issues or concerns or deficiencies in a way that they can receive it. It's not meant, I'm not saying to sugarcoat it,
Yeah.
but hey, you've got some things that are substandard that are lacking. Number one, do you recognize this? Number two, do you have a plan to fix this or address it? And number three, do I need to fix or address it?
Mm.
We fix and address, we come back, we review. If we don't see changes, no slow deaths.
Mm.
Change is inevitable, and senior leaders must be able to manage change effectively to ensure their organizations stay agile and responsive in the market.
I agree. Now, Bobby, 1 second. Just a quick follow up to that. So let's say you've had a tough conversation with someone, and or maybe just your team, and there's a little bit of morale that is lost. How do you restore team morale when it's down? What is your approach to that?
You don't just focus on the negative. The one
Don't
thing I
focus
used to
on
see in the
negative.
military that used to drive me crazy is when soldiers got ready to move to a new installation or they got ready to go somewhere, they would be put in for an award, which is kind of important to folks, to soldiers. But
Yeah.
commanders were consistently downgrading the awards. So let's say you were getting somebody put you up for an Army Commendation Medal. Next thing you know, it was downgraded to an Army Achievement Medal, or better yet, a certificate. Well,
Mhm.
why does that typically happen? Well, when you put in that award to the boss all of a sudden wants to go pull the file and see what's in the file. If I pull out something and I don't see anything but a bunch of negative counseling, first thing in my mind is, why am I getting ready to give you this award? I'm going to bring it down. So, what was the issue? We did terrible job, a terrible job of highlighting the good. Well, I told you the good. I said good job. I told you this. Well, did you put it in writing anywhere? Because again, if it's coming up here to the boss, I might not see everything that is going on to day down in the trenches. I might not see everything that's going on day to day out in the field or behind the desk. What I see is what my leaders purportedly are providing me on their people. And I'm making
Mhm.
my decision off of this. If you put nothing in here but negative, then I'm going to have a negative view. So we have to highlight good as well. If you did a good job, don't just tell me I did a good job. Put it in writing, put it
Mhm.
in my file, address it so that when it does make it to senior leaders or to strategic leaders, I have a holistic person of the individual, not just a negative view, not just a positive view, but a whole view. And
Mhm.
that's what I need to make those decisions.
That's wisdom. Go ahead, Bobby.
No, it really is. I wish we had more than 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
to just briefly touch on that, because there's so much there, is the zero defect mentality is what we call it in the Marine Corps. So it's pretty much, you cannot have any blemishes or you're not going to make it. Now, fortunately for me, I can successfully say I've got 3 Navy and Marine Corps achievement medals and a Marine Corps Commendation Medal. And it was because I showed up with dang near 0 defects. But that was just the appearance. I definitely had defects, and I had lots of them. But that's when it comes down to politics. And I was a very good negotiator. I made the right people look good. I made the wrong people look less bad. And it was like, you just have to know the game. So I say that to say this. When we were talking about decision making and we were talking about knowing that you're not going to have all the facts and not knowing everything, I just want to slip this in really quickly before I go to my piece that I had carved out, is that you've probably been conditioned to show up with no defects, to be perfect, because no one's highlighting your goods. They're only tracking your negatives. And that dramatically affects leaders' decision making, because they're afraid to make a mistake, because they know if they do, they're going to get crucified for it. And if they do something right, they're probably going to get the credit given to someone else. So now we got to talk slightly about brand. You got to know who you are and do what you do integral to you, so that it's not a matter of what people say about you, what people crucify you for, or what you get praised for, but it's a matter of being integral and maintaining self-integrity within. And that's very important for decision making and, in my experience, strategic leadership. But the piece that I wanted to share in these 2 minutes, best of my abilities, is everything that we've talked about today has a direct correlation to a business's financial health. So I'm going to give you guys a very brief, like, CFO insight, 60 seconds, 90 seconds maybe. But revenue has a lot to do with driving. You drive revenue, you protect profits, and you maximize equity from a financial CFO standpoint. And leadership, the right leadership must be in place in order for you to drive the team to their limits, because that's how you keep the edge. We hear it all the time. You're only as good as your weakest link, and your weakest link is only as good as you can lead. And that's strategic leadership. When we talk about profitability, you have to protect your profits, but you cannot protect what you cannot adapt to. So in the event that someone is infringing on your market share, or a new product comes out, or AI comes out, like all of these copywriters are seeing it right now. Facebook went down yesterday and they were like, oh my gosh, adaptability protects profitability. And that's why you have to be strong from a CFO standpoint. So when I'm coming into an organization and I'm looking at a CEO and I'm coaching them and I'm helping them, I'm like, your leadership is having a direct impact on your bottom line, because your people don't trust you, so you can't drive them, or they don't respect you enough to follow through with consequences, so they don't do what they're supposed to do. You're not able to adaptively and effectively react, so now you're losing market share due to a new competitor. And lastly, we've got equity. If you cannot maximize the equity, that comes from being able to think futuristically, to see the vision and to know what you need to invest in that's going to maximize earnings over time. That's my time, but I just want you guys to know that this conversation has a direct correlation to your bottom line.
Yes, sir. That was
That was
an
good.
entire clinic. Yeah, that was an entire clinic. That was an entire clinic right there. All right, guys. So we're about to wrap up. We do have one question. I'm gonna squeeze one question in before we wrap up. So Joel, in like 60 seconds, or maybe you could answer it another time. I believe you may be on tomorrow as well. But let's see. So let's see. I saw it a while ago. Okay, so Gates. So Gates Butchfield says, "What is the toughest conversation you've ever had, and how did you approach it?"
What is the toughest conversation I've ever had, and how did I approach it? Hmm.
Yeah.
The toughest conversation I've ever had is where I made a recommendation to the commander to utilize the Uniform Code of Military Justice against a fellow pilot for actions that they took in the combat zone. Love this guy to death. In fact, just spoke with him last week. We still get along today, and we've been out, and I had to tell him, this is not about personal. This is about business. I still think you are a phenomenal person, a phenomenal officer, phenomenal aviator, but you made a conscious decision that jeopardized the entire culture and the entire unit organization. That's a problem. Don't take it personally. I've always told you, if you are right, I will go to war with anybody for you. I will stand up against the highest ranking individual down to the lowest ranking individual if you're right. But if you're wrong, own it, take it in the chest, man up, make the adjustments, and let's move out. I'm not going to hold it against you and continue to beat you up about it. And that's a culture issue in some of the things that we do. As senior leaders, you establish the culture within the organizations because everybody's looking at you. Bobby mentioned zero-sum game and you come in no defects and all the above. The military is notorious for that. A lot of Fortune 500 companies are notorious for that. It's a scare tactic to me. I don't want you to be fearful of making a mistake. I want you to be able to identify the mistake and correct your actions. If you were perfect, you'd be online and be up there with God and Jesus. Last time I checked, none of us are perfect, and my God won't share his glory with no one. Period. So I'm not trying to be perfect. I am trying to be consistent. I am trying to be aware of what my actions and my thoughts bring to and do to the organization. Because it shapes the character of the organization itself and what I do. And when I take away from that or I do something that takes away from that, there's a problem and it needs to be corrected. Individuals, people have to be able to make corrections. If you come in with a zero-sum game, you're not going to have any employees. I'm not saying they get to keep making the same mistakes and the same errors, but people make mistakes. You make mistakes. I made mistakes. Did you learn from it? Did you grow from it? Can we move forward? Not going to keep beating you up over the same daggone mistake. If I got to do that, then I need to go ahead and get rid of you. That's simple.
Yeah. All right, guys. So, Mr. Gates, hopefully that answered your question. Thank you so much, Joel. This has been Breakfast with a Brand. Again, www.ultimatebrandchallenge.com. We'll be spending 5 days together where we're going to teach you how to build your industry-leading brand. Again, thank you again to all of our phenomenal women on today, International Women's Day. We absolutely love you. We appreciate you. Have a phenomenal day and speak soon. Let's grow.
From Harriet Tubman to Sojourner Truth to Rosa Parks, we have always been on a freedom run. Your LLC, your S Corp, C Corp, your business entity is what's going to give you the ability to go from your job, your industry wages, your 9 to 5, to the life of your dreams and the dream of your life. This is about you attaining all of the things that you could only possibly imagine and that our ancestors saw as not even being possible. Your freedom run, this is your freedom run. This is your moment. We're going to show you how to establish yourself as a business entity so you can go and come as you choose. There was a time when we needed permission slips to go from plantation to plantation. When you get a little bit older, you need permission slips to go from class to class. And when you get a little bit older, you get a vacation for 2 weeks and then you have to come back after 2 weeks to your job, right? That's what they call it now, the 9 to 5, the gig. You might you work for 50 weeks and you get 2 off. The freedom run is when you establish your LLC and you're free for the rest of your life.